Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube? Diggy546. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so I saw something on Twitter in the last couple of days from Mark Ross. Of course, our former head of scouting, assistant GM. Worked here with Jerry Reese for a little while. And Mark Ross said that he loved Malik Nabers as a prospect. He liked what he brought to the team in that aspect, but he's not the right pick for the Giants because bad wide receivers can be saved by good quarterbacks, but good quarterbacks can't be saved by bad wide receivers. Or good wide receivers can't save bad quarterbacks is pretty much what he said. And this is something that he said. He's been a huge critic of the Giants for the last couple of years. And I mean, even though we've been annoyed with him, I mean, you have to admit he's kind of been right. Because if you look at it, the Giants have not done well for the last couple of years. So he's kind of been right. But this is something that he said in the last couple of years that I've actually sort of agreed with. Daniel Jones is going into his 6th year and he has struggled mightily. He struggled with the turnovers at the beginning of his career. While he had some production where he was, if he would have played that whole rookie season, you would think he would have gone over 30 touchdowns. And then since then, he's been trying so hard to limit the turnovers that his touchdowns have severely dropped. I mean, 15 touchdowns, 14 touchdowns, 12. I mean, ridiculous numbers in the year 2024. And it's just not really, it doesn't really make me optimistic for him being able to put forth a higher output in the future, because 5 out of the 6 seasons he's played, or 4 out of the 5 seasons he's played, he's going into his 6th season, the production just has simply not been there. But then on the other hand, who's the best receiver that Daniel Jones has played with? The best guy he's ever thrown to in his career. Well, look at Duke. There's not much there. No NFL receivers at Duke. In high school, I'm not sure, but I would assume no NFL receivers at his high school. And then in the NFL, Darius Slayton has been his #1 target for the most part. Sterling Shepard is a really good wide receiver. Ray always was open, but he was always hurt. Wan'Dale Robinson, I mean, not on the level of even Sterling Shepard yet as a player. And then maybe you say Darren Waller, but he only played maybe, a game or two with Darren Waller. And in the preseason, he looked amazing with Darren Waller. So who's the best receiver he's played with? Probably Darius Slayton in his prime, or even though he's maybe not even touched his prime yet. But either it's between Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, or Golden Tate. Kenny Golladay got here and he was completely kind of gone. So that gives you something to think about, because he has not had a receiver as good as Malik Nabers. He has not had a #1 receiver on the Giants, let alone someone who could be, in my opinion, and there are so many good receivers these days, take this with a grain of salt, but someone who I think could be a top 5 wide receiver. And when I say top 5, I mean a guy that if you say he's the best in the league, people don't laugh you out of the room. So if that is something that he's going to have for the first time literally in his life, I would think it would have some type of effect on him. I really would. Now, Malik Nabers is someone who is, I mean, ready to go. He's someone that had over 1,500 yards last year. He had 14 touchdowns. He had that number one receiver pedigree. He comes from a school of a long line of #1 wide receivers. And he really, being honest, is about as good, if not better, a prospect than Jamar Chase. Now, there's some issues where people think that he can't get off the line. I don't think that that's going to be an issue. There are people saying that he can't consistently be outside. I also don't think that's an issue. I think his quickness at the line is great. I don't think he'll have any issues getting open wherever you line him up. And also, when you look at his numbers, he's been outside more than he's been inside. And the numbers are like 300 and 300 or 340 and 340, something like that. So he's been a guy that can play anywhere. So when you look at this situation, he's someone that can take those short passes take him to the house. He's someone that's going to be open. And when I say open, he's going to be open by 4 or 5 yards at times, 6 yards at times. He's going to get behind the defense and be so wide open that, I mean, no one else will be in the frame. This is the type of receiver and player that Malik Nabers is, and this is what he's bringing to the Giants. So just because of how open he's going to be, you have to think that something like this is going to help Daniel Jones out. I mean, if Daniel Jones looks up and he's got pressure in his face, but Malik Nabers is wide open on a slant, that's probably a lot easier than you got pressure in your face and nobody's even off the line of scrimmage yet. So that's something that I sort of think about. He's going to consistently be open. You have to think that this offense, especially with Saquon Barkley on, there's no one else to run this offense through. You're not going to run this offense through Jalen Hyatt. I do think he's going to continue to get better as a route runner, but he's not going to be that guy. He's not going to, and when I say that guy, he could end up being a star wide receiver, but what I'm saying is he's not going to be a guy that's going to run the full route tree yet. He's not that. He's not there yet. Wan'Dale Robinson may be able to run the full route tree, but he's not going to be your #1 wide receiver. So you don't have Saquon anymore. You're not going to be running a ton with Daniel Jones. Or if Drew Lock is there, he's not going to be running as much as Daniel Jones did. So where else are you going to go with the football? Is Darren Waller coming back? If he's not coming back, the #1 target that you're going to be throwing to is going to be Malik Nabers. And I feel like if Daniel Jones throws to Malik Nabers more than anybody else, and he develops that sort of chemistry with the wide receiver of his caliber, of his ilk, I mean, of his level, I really think that you're going to see probably the best of Daniel Jones. I really think so. Because, again, who else has he thrown the football to? Now, just because you will see the best of Daniel Jones doesn't mean that that's going to be enough to bring him back. And that's really going to be your question. How many touchdowns, receptions, yards, how many wins do you think that Malik Nabers adds to the Giants? You would think maybe Saquon Barkley added 3 or 4 wins. Maybe 3 wins if he plays the whole year. What if Malik Nabers is that Pro Bowl level player? Does he add 3 or 4 wins too? Does he add 7 wins? I don't think so. But he may add 3 or 4 wins. So you're pretty much back to the same level as far as skill position. But that's the thing. If Malik Nabers is as good enough as I think he can be, that's going to open things up for people like Wan'Dale Robinson. It's going to open things up for Jalen Hyatt. It's going to open things up for Darius Slayton. It's going to open things up for Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson. And if Darren Waller is here, look out. I mean, look out. And the only thing that stands in the way of this offense looking how it should look, in my opinion, which is explosive, exciting. I mean, literally every week we should have something where we're like, I love that play that we made. That play was spectacular that we saw. Every week we should be seeing something like that. And if not, the only person that stopped that is Daniel Jones. Now, yes, the offensive line may contribute, but also all those weapons, man. All those weapons that I think can all beat one-on-one coverage. I think you got to be able to make something happen. And Malik Nabers is going to start to get bracketed, and those guys are going to start to be wide open. So I think he makes the whole offense better. I think we're going to run the offense through him, and I think by that measure, Daniel Jones is going to look like a better quarterback. So is he going to save Daniel Jones' career as a Giant? Honestly, I'll say I'm not sure. I'm not sure. If Daniel Jones can run the offense and run things the way that they should be run and keep the turnovers down and say he goes over 30 touchdowns and looks like a completely different player, I think we bring him back. I mean, we let him continue to play his contract. But if he still looks like the same guy and the only time Malik Nabers is doing something is on a couple of slant routes or a hitch and he's just turning things into big plays and maybe once in this entire season he hits them on a deep route, you're going to see Daniel Jones out of here. So I think the real Daniel Jones is somewhere in the middle of those two. But I think this should be Daniel Jones' best season of his career. So you let me know down in the comments what you think of this whole situation with Daniel Jones, with Malik Nabers. How will they make each other better? How will they make each other worse? What kind of stats do you expect to see this year from them? And let me know that in the comments. If you made it this deep into the video, come on, just hit the subscribe button. I make Giants content primarily, draft content secondarily, and during the season, I'm going to be doing a lot of reacting to pretty much most of the NFL games and everything NFL. So if you made it this deep, go ahead and join the D6 squad.